I'm John Beaudin. Here's our complete interview with Gilbert O'Sullivan. This is Rock History Book. When I was 13 years old, I was humming along to songs like Alone Again Naturally or Claire. I went through a second album over and over again, liking it, then realized there was an album before that with things like Nothing Rhymes, which was a hit in the UK. Burton Cummings recorded it, and many other people recorded it in North America. The same thing happened to me with Elton John, probably you too, where you get an album, he has a hit, then you realize you've just discovered this artist who has a few albums that came out a few years before. Here's our interview with Gilbert O'Sullivan. I love the video. I love the vibe. I love KT. Everything about this is just very positive. And you know what? We need tunes like this.
Thank you for that.
So where did the song come from is just like as you're, because I don't have the album yet because it's too early. They couldn't send it to me. But where did the vibe of that song come from?
You could add the influence could be there from the Blues Brothers. It has that kind of feel for everybody needs somebody, bum, 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 that kind of feel. So that's there, and it's just I write songs, John, and I like to vary. I like to rock it up, slow it down, middle, do mid-tempo. I think to be a good songwriter is to have that variety. So that just came out, sounded good. I played very rhythmically on the piano. I play the piano like you play the drums. so I can rock it up just on my own.
A lot of drummers in this family, as you can see behind me. You know what? When Burton Cummings, I have to ask you this because I'm about to interview him, recorded Nothing Rhymed. I mean, by the way, because of my age at the time, I had not heard your version until I looked at the liner notes when we had liner notes, right? And I went, Gilbert O'Sullivan, oh my God, because I was very familiar with your work. Obviously not familiar enough because Nothing Rhymed was not a hit in Canada at that time. What did you think of his version?
I loved it. I know how it happened because we were doing a TV show, a very popular television show in England to promote that song. And Burton in the band, what were they called? The
Guess Who?
The Guess Who. And I know that he looked over when I was performing, when I was rehearsing. And I think that's where he picked up the idea of liking that song and wanted to record it. And his version is really nice and stuff. And I was thrilled with it.
The song itself, see, to me, I always had this, whenever I'm a 39-year-old broadcaster, we're always trying to tell stories. But when I first heard that song, his version, then immediately I went, oh, I missed out on that that first album. But I immediately thought of you as the guy who sits down and people watches. I'm going, this guy's deeper than most guys. I'm going, do you have that introspective kind of personality?
I think for example, on that song, what's interesting with that song, on English television, for the first time ever, we saw starving children on television. Biafra. It was Biafra. That nobody had seen starving children on television. So that all resonated with everybody. So that comes out in the song, seeing children on television. So I'm a good observer. Very often my songs are like a newspaper, John. You open it up, the first page is about one subject. The second page is something else. The common denominator might be the hook line at the end. And I kind of like that because you can subtly put in things without preaching. God forbid I should be preaching. So Nothing Rhymed is a bit like that. And somebody was mentioned the other day, said, if I give up the seat of and say, am I being a good boy? Am I your pride and joy? Mother, please, if you please say yeah. And if while in the course of my duty, I perform an unfortunate take. Well, to most people, what's that all about? And of course, in the musical world, you know what a take is. A take is when you record your vocal or you record your guitar and stuff. So so those kind of areas come into the song. And it was the first success for me in Europe, Australia, but not in America. It takes time in America and Canada too, but we got there eventually.
Well, isn't it interesting with things like, I know that streaming services don't exactly do what they're supposed to do for the artist, but I was noticing your numbers, especially with that song. I'm going, well, if it wasn't, it's certainly doing well now because people are reintroducing themselves to that song and a whole bunch of other ones.
Yeah, and we've just toured. We didn't get to Canada this time, but we expect to get to Canada in 2023. It goes down really well. People really like the song, so it's so that's nice. It's a nice comment from people.
What kind of a kid were you when you were growing up? Because I'm a lyric guy, so I'm always paying attention to your lyrics, and
again, imagining, I'm going, what were you a sensitive kid? Were you an introspective kid?
Yeah, shy, introverted. You know, I mean, I used to do all my writing in the garden shed in Swindon. So had a piano there. Bob Dylan and the Beatles were the biggest influence for me, because the Beatles for songwriting and Dylan for, I kind of connected with Dylan because I didn't think I had a great voice, but I have a distinctive voice. So I kind of identified with him, because if he could sing and be successful, then maybe there's a chance for me. And of course, his lyrics and stuff. So the influences were huge for me. And you know, and the lyric writing side of it is it's interesting because when you sit down to write a melody, you play the piano for however long it takes till something comes into you. And if you get a melody, you can trunk it like Irving Berlin used to do. Trunk a good melody, because a good melody will survive any length of time. But I never write a lyric until I know I'm going to record it. And then when you're going to write the lyric, you've got this melody. So what's it going to be about? You've got no idea. And so page 1 and page 2 are empty. Then you get to page 3 and it starts to come. And before you know it, it's the Leonard Cohen thing of writing more verses than you're ever going to need. You're on the 6th verse and you're battling with it. Somebody should be tapping on it and say, for Christ's sake, what are you doing the 6th verse for? You're not going to use it. Why do you sit there? And you know, and that's one of the fascinating things about the process. What can I say? There's very few jobs that you do where the love of something takes on that kind of role.
You're the first person that's ever told me that. And like, I'm going on 40 years, like I said, in broadcasting, and I've interviewed thousands of people. I've never heard someone say, well, I've got all these verses.
Well, apparently Leonard Cohen was the one that used to do it too. Because you have to say to yourself, why do you do it? Because you're putting in as much effort into that 6th verse and 3rd middle 8 than you're ever going to need. Why do you do it? It's because maybe it's because you start blank and then the ideas come and you just can't resist. You can't resist. And maybe it's like practicing your practicing your lyrical ability. Maybe it helps. Maybe it helps in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Alone Again Naturally, as you've heard, I mean, I know you've talked about the song a million times, but I don't own those takes, and here you are in front of me. But it's been called the most depressing song of all time. To me, that's, of all the songs that I've hymned inside my head, because I remember going, that guy understands me, man. That's what, as a kid, I was going, that guy gets me, man. Tell me about, I mean, 6 weeks at *1, you became at that point with the second album. I know it was not on the second album. By the way, why wasn't it on the second album?
You're asking me, John. It's not my department.
It's
not my department.
I had the single and I bought the second album because your second album was my first from you. Okay. And I remember going, well, I've got the single, so that's okay.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll check it out when we finish. I'll see why that is. But no, the interesting with Alone Again, of course, is that many people I meet, even people who write about it, assume that it was based on personal experience and stuff. And I think to be a good lyricist, you don't have to experience a subject. An understanding of a subject is important, particularly if it's a serious subject. So, you know, I'm a young songwriter. I'm 22, 23 years of age. I'm in a bungalow that my manager has let me live in, enabling me to give up my £10 a week job so I could write songs all day. So Alone Again was written, as were other songs, on the couch in the afternoon, sitting and coming up with lyrics and stuff. I didn't think it was any more special than any other song. I was pleased with the way it was going. I didn't have a title for it, but I was getting into the subject matter. And eventually I finished it and got the title. Gordon Mills, my manager, liked it. And we went into the studio about a week later to record 2 songs in those 3-hour sessions. So one would be Alone Again. The other was Out of the Question. So everybody said who was there, Out of the Question is the obvious one for the single. They liked Alone Again, but they didn't think it would be a commercial single. But in the end, my manager said, you know, even though it's not as commercial as Out of the Question, let's stick with it and stuff. So the rest is history. So the good thing for me is that I liked the song. I was happy with it, but I didn't think, God forbid, that I think, wow, this is going to change everything for me. You don't want those kind of experiences done. You just need to know, be happy that you've written what you think is a good song, look forward to recording it, and the rest is up to whatever happens.
Of course, a lot of people talk about the fact that you didn't get into major relationships back then. I don't know, but I'm picturing you, because I've always been that type of guy. I'm going, who is this guy? with horse blinders on going, I'm zeroing in on what I have to do. This is what I have to get done when you weren't babysitting your producer's daughter. I know, Claire, which is another great story. But is that a question of you just knowing yourself, knowing the machine that you're walking around in?
Very disciplined. I was songwriting was everything to me. So therefore, when I was allowed to give up work and then move into a bungalow, in between writing songs, I mean, I had the occasional girlfriend, but I wouldn't allow that relationship to get any more than just a general acquaintance. I was terrified of getting into a strong relationship, which might hinder my writing, because I used to write during the night before I got married. Nighttime was the best time for me. But when I got married, that had to change to a daily routine, which is no problem. So I avoided serious relationships. I avoided anything that might interfere with my ability to write songs. And I like the fact that this is interesting, because normally when Nothing Rhymes took off success all over Europe and Australia, you'd imagine that you'd get invitations to go there, right? Now, Gordon Mills with Tom Jones and Gilbert Humming, he didn't need to send me off to Australia and to even go to America to try and break it, which was good for me, because what it meant was I had that extra time to spend at home. So we could go to Germany, we could go to Holland, we could go to France and come back within a couple of days. So I was always being able to be back home to concentrate on the most important thing. So that discipline has always been with me, and it's applicable even today.
But how did you keep it together? I used to always tell people if I was Justin Bieber, I'd be dead. I don't know if I could have handled that at his age. Is that part of the software of who you are, how you were brought up? I mean, what made you not go crazy?
Well, because I'm not a red carpet person, so I didn't, I'm basically very shy. It's all I can go in front of 2,000 people and perform, be very comfortable because I'm singing my songs. I meet 2 or 3 of them in the lift afterwards, and I bottle up. So the shyness is there. You're born that way. So I've always been very few personal friends. Always pretty much, I like being on my own. I like my own company. Very comfortable with that, and that helped me. It helps me with my ability to get into to write songs. I concentrate on the most important thing, because without the songs, John, there's no artist anyway. Everything is to do with the songs. Mm-hmm. It's not like you've got a great voice, whatever you record will be a success. No, not with me. If the song isn't good enough, it ain't going to happen.
I like the story about you hearing that you were sampled and you sued. But what is it you think that why is it in music, Bismarcky, that's who it was, why is it in music there's always a component of music where people think it's free? Like,
yeah, I mean, people like Bismarcky really, they pushed the bar because they figured that they can get away with it. Who's going to bother? Nobody had secured a sample case that went to court before my case. Yeah. So it set a precedent, because once you've set a precedent, after that, nobody can do it without getting a permission to do it. And in his case, he just did it. And when he asked if he could do it, I said I had to listen to it to approve it. And I heard it and I didn't approve it. So we told him that he had to withdraw it and stuff. And he, again, you see that culture. He said, nah, we don't care. We're just going to do it anyway. So I had to then go to court, not in England. I had to go to New York, hire expensive lawyers, get into court. And who do you think is the first person on the stand? It's me. Bismarcky isn't even there, for God's sake. It's but I was confident that we would win. And the judge was great. He's a cool guy. And here's how it went. The judge said, after a couple of days, he said to the people representing Bismarcky, if you don't remove this track, this was coming up to the autumn period when records are going to be released for Christmas and stuff. He said, and this was Warner Brothers, who were the major company behind Bismarcky's label. He said, if you don't remove this song in the next 10 days, the next 2 weeks, I'll have every Warner product removed. Well, the S hit the fan massively. And by the time we walked back to the office of my lawyers, the phones were just going crazy and it was all over. But who needs that? So I'm happy it set a precedent. I'm happy that nobody had to go through that in the future. But, life's too short. You don't want to be going to courtrooms.
Yeah. With Claire, when you wrote that song, was she a baby? Was she a little girl? How old was she?
Yeah, she's 2 or 3 years old and stuff. She was their youngest daughter and stuff. I babysat for Gordon. I babysat for Engelbert Humperdinck one night. So, I was a good babysitter because Corey's down the road. He'll come up. So and Claire was the one who was getting up in the middle. The nice thing about Claire was I wrote it as a thank you to Gordon Mills and his wife, Jo. Gordon, because he managed me with all that success, and Jo, because she cooked meals for me. And the great thing about the record is, John, is Gordon plays the harmonica in the middle. He plays the harmonica solo. And Claire is the one, of course, who laughs at the end. And, it's an affection for her that I used to go up to the house all the time, and she'd run up to me and say, Uncle Ray, and, one of these days I'm going to marry you when I get older and stuff. So there was a nice line of affection. So the song was written as a tribute to the family, and, great success. And we were all very happy with it.
So did you know what that song when you put it down?
No, never know that. It's you don't want to know that, John. You just need to know in your mind, with your experience, with the years that you've been doing it. I've been writing since I was 15. It's good. And that's really the most important thing. You're not finishing something that, I'll just finish it because I started it. No. You finish something that you're happy with. Nobody's hearing it. Your family are not hearing it. Your daughter's not hearing it. Yeah. I've heard McCartney say that, when he writes a song, he can't wait to play it to people. So think of this and stuff, I'm not like that. I'll tell you why I'm not like that, because it's interesting. When I was young, when I started early, when I was 15 or 16 to write songs, and Irish people get together. Irish people get together. Sorry, the accordion comes out. So, and my mum knew that I was starting to write songs and stuff. So a gathering took place, and my mother said to the gathering, Raymond writes songs. Raymond, will you do one of your songs? Oh God, no. So I sang a song called Disappear, which of course became the second release for CBS. And at the end of it, total silence. So I vowed then, never again was I going to play a song to anybody unless it had to be the publisher or something.
Wow.
So I learned my lesson very quickly.
Get Down 73 was one of my favorite songs of 1973. That was one of those, no matter what I did, I was a lumberjack back then. At 13 years old, my dad. Tell me about that tune.
Well, it's just a good pop song. The lyric is, it didn't take me too long to write it. There was meant to be a solo in the middle, but the guitar player didn't turn up. So I just stuck in another verse. It's a great sounding record. I thought a nice compliment. I heard a couple of months back that Bono put that in his top 10 favorite singles and stuff. So it's a really good record, a big success for me over there. So, and it goes down in storm. Even when we do it with just myself and my guitar player, we managed to get everybody moving around. So.
And it showed a different side of you as far as singles are concerned. So, yeah.
I want to thank Gilbert O'Sullivan for talking to us. What a gentleman, huh? What a nice guy. And very, very talented. Make sure you comment on our videos, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. I'm John Beaudin from Rock History Book.